Every week, the New South Wales Aboriginal Legal Service receives about 300 phone calls from Indigenous people arrested by police. The 24-hour hotline provides legal advice and support for those facing a long night in a jail cell. The service, which costs $500,000 a year, is now under threat because of a funding stoush between the New South Wales and federal governments. John Stewart reports.
Hello Shirley, my name's Claire. I'm a solicitor with the Aboriginal Legal Service. How are you going there, Shirley? Are you okay?
It's the first question that lawyers at the Aboriginal Legal Service in Sydney ask when they receive a phone call from an Aboriginal person who's been taken into custody. The lawyers take calls from right across New South Wales, from the inner city to small country towns in remote areas.
The sergeant told me that you're at the station because there's an allegation of shoplifting. Now, as part of their process, they are going to ask you if you'd like to do an interview and talk to them about that allegation.
The Custody Notification Service receives 300 calls a week, or 14,000 calls a year from Aboriginal people in New South Wales. Claire Carpenter is one of the lawyers who mans the 24-hour phone line. She says many of the Aboriginal people she speaks with are confused about their legal rights.
We get calls from a lot of people, a lot of juveniles, who, when we speak with them, they may not necessarily have a support person with them. So we just explain to them what's going to happen to them at the police station.
Lawyers at the Aboriginal Legal Service say that giving legal advice to Aboriginal people as soon as they are arrested is essential to keeping young Indigenous people out of prison.
Quite often they're in a panic. They're very vulnerable, they feel utterly powerless. Their first reaction is wanting to say whatever will get them out of that police station and out of that cell right then and there that night. Sometimes that means making false confessions, thinking that's the best answer to get out of this immediate situation. They need advice on their rights and the repercussions that if they were to make a story that was wrong, how hard that is to wind back later down the track in the court case.
This man's 14-year-old daughter was arrested and placed in a police cell last year. He called the hotline and got advice.
Clear, concise, straight up and down information. Don't do this, don't do that, don't sign anything. And in actual fact, just prior to our arrival, they were, I think there was coercion into trying to get our daughter to make a statement. Now that would have only made the whole situation even worse.
When New South Wales Police arrest an Aboriginal person, they are required by law to contact the Custody Notification Service. Since the telephone hotline started 13 years ago, there have been no Aboriginal deaths in New South Wales police cells. But the phone line is now under threat because of a funding stoush between the state and federal governments.
Well, we're in May now, so we're looking at the next budget. So, you know, we're counting down the days as we speak. We haven't had any response at all from the federal or the state government.
The federal government currently funds the legal hotline, which it says is required under New South Wales law. It says the O'Farrell government is refusing to fund a service required by its own legislation. The New South Wales government says the Aboriginal Legal Service has historically been a federal government responsibility and is calling on the Gillard government to continue funding the service in next week's budget. The hotline costs $500,000 a year. John Stewart, Lateline.